Welcome to the Lovoni and Sarah podcast. Thank you for joining us. We're so pleased you're here. Our weekly episodes discuss holistic approaches to weight loss, health, and well-being. And as we work at improving our own health and wellness, we share our stories and what we've learned through research and experience in the hopes we encourage others to improve their own health. I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah. And on this week's episode, we're talking too much. If, like us, you're working on yourself and feeling there's too much information, too much fear, too much choice, too much food, too much to do, too much to think about, some days it just feels overwhelming and just too much. We're talking ways to reduce the too much and switch to just right. But before we embark on today's episode, let's find out how we got on with last week's challenge, which was goals. Do you want to kick off, Lovoni? How did you get on?
I think mine was because I'd already made my goals. So I think mine
Yeah,
was just to
keep on.
carry on with it,
Yeah.
to keep on. Which is what I did. So I've been
Mm-hmm.
very active. And my eating is fine. I'm not sort of tracking anything or doing anything like
No.
that. I feel like maybe I should be, but
So are you coming
um
back and like read, because you wrote them all down. So do you regularly keep reading those goals, or do you think you've just got it registered for now? And
no, I've got it firmly in my brain.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it is good to read back on because it's put in my journal and
Mm-hmm.
I like to read back on it, and I like to read back even though I know the why and the how. It's still, I like to go and look at it
Yeah.
because it just bolsters
It's a little
my,
refresh, isn't it?
it's a little refresh. Yeah. What about
Mm-hmm.
you?
My goal was to make a little vision board of some sort, and because my goal is to get fitter and stronger. So what I've got is I'm going to try and sort of flash this on the screen for those that can't see. I've made a little what do you call it, like a lock screen image,
Oh,
and
yeah,
on it
yeah,
I've put
right.
all of the things that I'm working towards that I want to keep fresh in my everyday, and I've just created 4 little images and screenshot it and then created it as a screensaver for me on my phone, so that every time I pick my phone up,
Mm.
it's that I do flip between that and a picture of me and my son because he's away and I'm missing him. But so that I flip between the two. But I've got 4 things on there that I want to keep in mind and working towards. So that's one thing
Oh,
that
that's
I've
a nice
done.
idea.
Um, so that was an idea for people. And instead of the little vision board on my screen, I've done that. And I've been really keeping a really close eye on my general movement, so that you and I were talking just a bit earlier, but I've done lots and lots of steps every day. I've hit my movement goal every day. I've hit my exercise goal every day, but just through my general moving around and my standing goal, which are all recorded on my watch. And mainly that's been through working in the garden, if I'm honest. So I've been very active from that point of view. So next on my little goal, because I said I was doing it in small stages, is to
Hmm.
up my sort of weight training. So I want to get a bit more of a regular routine and some weight training added in. So that's the next thing on my goal. But yeah, I feel like I've moved ahead. So that's good. All you want to do is just
I
get a bit
think
better.
I think for my, like, the next thing on my goal, and I have talked about this so many times, like a broken record, but really, really knuckle down on portion sizes for
Mm-hmm.
things
Mm-hmm.
because I don't, as you know, I cook most food myself.
Yeah.
Um, but I just eat too much
Mm-hmm.
because I like food.
It's nice, isn't it? It's difficult.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I think, oh, I'll have small portion later. So that is just something, we're entertaining this weekend, and it's not going to be a license to eat
Mm-hmm.
a giant piece of cake. I
Yeah.
may still have a little piece of cake, but it's going to be very small.
We should have
White
the
chocolate and
cake.
lemon curd. Oh, I have the cake.
Yeah.
I just won't have a regular piece of cake.
Well, why not? But if you
Well, because
have
it
the
doesn't make
regular
me feel
bit,
good anyway. It
no?
doesn't, no, the sugar in it doesn't make me feel
Okay.
good. And it's at night and then I don't sleep right. So
Mm.
it's kind of like my body just saying, just don't be a fucking idiot.
Because I think I would argue that one bit of cake isn't going to undo everything. It's just then if you
Yeah,
have
no, I'm going to
the
have
whole of the
some. I'm
rest
just
of
not
the
going to have
cake.
much.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm going to send it with my friend. I think
Yes.
it's her birthday. Yeah,
That's
I'm going to
probably
do
quite a
that.
good intro into our episode today of the too much episode, isn't it?
Yes. So can I just say how this came about
Yes.
first?
And I thought I've
Sarah and
even,
I,
yeah, carry on.
Sarah and I were messaging, and the funny thing was that I had just been to Costco, but Sarah didn't know that.
No, I didn't.
And I had bought too much, as one does at Costco, as much as I
Hmm.
love them. And of course, everything's in a big size. And I was like, oh shit, what am I going to eat? I can't eat all of it, but I wanted to eat. I didn't want it to throw any of it away. And
Hmm.
so I was in a slight state of panic, first world problems, right? Thinking, well, what am I going to have? I can't have too much because then it's too many,
Yeah.
calories. And I thought, "God, why did I buy so much?" And then we were messaging. I don't think I said anything about that.
No,
We were
I've
just
called it
messaging
up.
on the
Yeah.
overall. Yeah, you did. Okay, yeah, the overall feeling of I was just feeling blah, I think.
Yeah, and we were talking about the fact that there's a lot of fear mongering, and people sort of feel overwhelmed with how much information there was out there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how our
yeah,
sort of conversation
yeah.
went.
But
So,
Sarah's response
shall I
was
read it?
spot on. Read it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, this is the text message between Livoni and I way back. And it said, I think too much is the problem, full stop. Too much advice, too much fear, too much choice, having too much food in the house, eating too much, dot, 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 full stop. That's what I found, and I've stripped it all back. I have the knowledge now from the work that I and we have done together. I've then reduced everything, what I'm buying, the size, the choice of everything, but keeping all the knowledge in mind with what I'm choosing. It's really helping me. My overwhelm is slowly subsiding. So
And
that's
it
the,
was brilliant. It struck such a chord with me
yeah.
that because I'm always trying to simplify things,
Hmm.
trying being the operative word, right?
Yeah.
Purging, just, and so it just made me look at all the areas of my life, like my work and even, the whole too much choice thing. So, um, when I go to do recipes for my website,
Hmm.
I think, okay, this is what I'm going to do, sort of keeping it kind of lined up with, what I want with the
Yeah.
losing weight and just healthy home cooked food, right? Wholesome stuff. Um, and then I think, well, I should do this and I should do that. And then the whole squirrel thing starts in my head, or the
Hmm.
chipmunks or whatever. And I get complete overwhelm to the point where I think, oh, I just can't do
Just
this.
don't do any of it. Yeah.
So I don't do any of it because I feel so overwhelmed by it. And
Hmm.
I think this is a really big thing. But when I was putting the notes together for this episode, it didn't, it struck me how bad I am with that
Right.
because of the too much. So I have to narrow it in and decide what I want to do.
Hmm.
Like, um, I like recipes that don't have a huge list of ingredients,
Hmm. Me too.
unless it's, maybe a curry and it's got just spices that you
Yeah.
can just go boom, boom, boom. Um, that I don't mind if they take 2 hours in the oven, but I don't want to spend an hour and a half
No.
just getting stuff ready. So I like, quite simple rustic food that it doesn't have to be healthy for whatever, everybody has a
Yeah.
different version
Not a
of that.
diet version. Yeah.
But just wholesome, good food that, I like to eat and I enjoy, and focus on that. So, because I think that would resonate with people, the simplicity of it, the lack, the fact that there's not a lot of ingredients.
Yeah.
You know, some things, yeah, I might have an obscure ingredient, but you can get anything online these
Yeah.
days, like Korean chili powder or something.
Hmm.
Um, that will give an option, an alternative for people.
Yeah.
But it showed me how much too much can lead to procrastination and really lack of self-discipline, because I think it creates anxiety, and
I
then you
think
don't end up doing
yeah, it
stuff.
just, what it feels for me was what's happening, as I found that it was overwhelming, what was it like visually, even what was in front of me. So if I bought like a great big food shop and I open the fridge, I'm like, oh God, what am I going to have for lunch? Because it's all of
Right.
this choice
Mhm.
in front of me. Whereas what I'm finding is it's a bit easier because my son's away. He might have an absolute fit if he saw how empty the house was with food, but
I'm sure mum will load up before he
it'll be
does.
fine. Yeah. I look in and go, oh, that's fine. I know what I've got. So I've bought sort of one small lettuce, one, and just like 4 little cans of tuna if I know that's what I'm having. And
Because
it's
you can go
really
back to the shops, right?
it's really simple. And I've got enough for
Yeah.
3 or 4 lunches, and then I'll go
Mhm.
back later in the week and go and buy another lettuce. It's fresh. I haven't got because I hate the fact that my fridge can be stocked to the front and I can't see everything properly. And
Yeah,
it's
or it looks
really
messy.
yeah, it's really, really working for me. And a bit like you were saying with ingredients and recipes and things, this weekend just gone, I had my parents over on the Sunday, and the day before we just built my new pizza oven, which is very exciting. So I made a dough for the pizza base. That was all fine. We kept it really simple for the pizzas, which was delicious. But ordinarily, I would go overboard. I'm like, right, well, we need to have 3 or 4 salads. We need to have probably a choice of
Mm,
4 drinks. We need to have at least 2 desserts. There's only going to be 4 of us there, for goodness sake. But that whole hosting idea, you feel like you've got to
yeah,
host for everybody. And I just thought, it's literally a light lunch. That's crazy. So I went and got some Jersey potatoes. I boiled them. I didn't put butter on them where I normally would. And I got fresh mint from my own garden, which was lovely. And I cooked them with mint. Then I just did a green salad, literally a green salad. And oh, sorry, hang on a
right, I
minute.
love that. Just yeah, green,
Really,
just
I bought
lettuce.
some salad from the supermarket, but I also, where we're
Mhm.
growing our vegetables now, picked our very first own leaves of
Oh,
our
well
own
done.
lettuce, which is very excited, and added that in. Um, and then my partner made a from scratch alioli, or alioli, so just the garlic,
Nice.
crushed garlic with the olive oil, so no mayonnaise, just literally the proper
Mhm.
original version, which was like rocket fuel. It was so strong, but it was so gorgeous.
Yum.
And I just drizzled that over my potatoes, and then we had a slice of the pizza, or 2 slices each, whatever, and it was absolutely delicious. And you didn't need any more. I didn't buy desserts. I just picked up some fresh strawberries, made a pot of fresh
Nice.
coffee. So we had a pot of fresh coffee afterwards. That in a new set that we bought from an antiques fair a few weeks ago. So that was its first use as well. So that was exciting. And I looked back and thought, do you know what? I thoroughly enjoyed that meal, and it was so simple. And it was so much less than I would not, at
You
least
didn't get stressed out
a
having to do
quarter
it.
less of what I normally would have done. And what I
Right.
didn't have left over was loads and loads and loads of food that you then feel like you've got to eat up for the next week,
Mm,
because otherwise it's a
mhm.
waste,
Yeah.
putting it in the bin. And it's probably more calorific than you normally would have, because in your head you're like, well, it's a treat because people are coming over.
Yeah.
So you've
Yeah.
made it more. It removed all of that. And I just got to the end of the day and thought, well, that was a complete success for me for a number of reasons. The fact that I loved the food, but the fact that it was simple and I haven't got loads of it left. So that's the kind of example that I think is having less. If you have less, it
Paring
just seems to
back.
work. Yeah, absolutely.
That reminds me of listening to you say that, and about the menu reminds me of, like, the French,
Hmm.
because they're, often like that with their meals.
Yeah.
And, that even if they're hosting, they just, simple meals.
Yeah.
And, also the way they dress, the women.
Hmm.
They're ones I think that have completely embraced the whole capsule
Less is more.
wardrobe
Yeah.
thing. Less is more. So, some key pieces, you dress them up, dress them down.
Hmm.
And so that's what I'm working at with my clothes, because I seriously just have a
You've got too
ridiculous amount of
much.
clothes.
Yeah.
And I did, and I don't know whether I talked about this on the podcast. I know we have talked about purging, but I must have got rid of at least half of my
Wow.
clothes. Just, I don't know, a month back maybe.
Yeah.
Might have been when we were out on a break, I can't remember. But anyway, and that felt so good, but then I wanna do it further, because
Hmm.
I have been getting some key pieces, things that are timeless, that are very good
Yeah.
quality, that I can, mix and match. But I
Hmm.
think that also makes a difference when you know what you like, when you know your taste. And it's having the ability to part with things as well,
Yeah, that is
I think,
hard. I find it
you
hard.
know? Yeah, but, if it goes to charity, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But props is another thing. I have too much in the way
Hmm.
of props because of what I do. I food style and
Yeah.
photograph food. And but I find that's also overwhelming, because I don't have a space that I can just have shelves all around the wall with all my props that I can see. So they're either on display or they're tucked away. And when I go to do a photo and I want to get some props, that's overwhelmed because I've got too much choice.
Yeah,
So that's my next thing is going
yeah.
through because that whole too much just has a negative impact.
Well, I
I
experienced it. So a few weeks back, we were going on a little holiday, and so I had some people coming to stay at the house to look after the dogs for me. So it was
right,
like before someone's coming around, you make sure you have a really thorough clean and bathrooms and tidying up and hoovering. And then I had a complete and utter hissy fit because I was like, oh my god, there's just so much stuff in this house. When you're trying to tidy it
right.
up, and I was just like, I
Mhm.
said, I just need to get rid of it all. But I do struggle. You go through going, but what if I'm going to need that? And what if I'm going to need this? And that costs me a lot of money. And that's probably going to be
Yeah,
useful. And
you have to yeah, definitely have to
so
take all that out of the equation.
the other thing I struggle with that is I have genuine intent for that. I know that I can get rid of things. That's fine. But what I really struggle with is time. And this was interesting. So I thought about this as well when I was
Mm,
making the notes, because what I'm finding is I have too much to do with the time that I have available. In all
right.
honesty, the list is as long as my arm, and it will all benefit me at the end, because once I've done the purge, I will find it better. Once I've finished doing the work I
Mhm.
want to do in my garden, I'll get to enjoy it apart from the general upkeep. When I've done this, do you know what I mean? And the list is
Mm,
really, really long. And what I find is I have too much to do with the time I have available. So what I've done recently is I've got some projects that I'd like to do in the house. And I just thought, okay. And I wrote this down to remember how I did it. I looked at all of the things that I wanted to do, thought that's too much. There's no way I'm going to get all of that done immediately. It's just not going to happen.
mm,
So I broke it down into some realistic sort of timeframes and thought, okay, so there's some work I want to do, like painting walls and things. That's really going to be better to do perhaps in the winter time, because what I want to do now is
right,
get my garden done. So I just made a prioritization list, and it still looks like a lot, don't get me wrong, but all of a sudden it's given me some breathing space to go, I don't
right.
have to get it all done now. And I know I
Mhm.
will get it done. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to focus on my outdoor space, because I don't know why I'm so precious about getting this done. If only it's 16 degrees and raining here in the UK today. But anyway, mid-June.
Can be
Happy
ever hopeful.
Happy England, everybody. But I want to get it done. And so that's what I'm going to focus on, because I can't do everything. I can't, because I'm,
No.
doing my art, running my own business, doing this, doing that. You
It
can't do
makes it to a
everything.
point where you just then can't focus on one well, I can't. I just get that overwhelm paralysis and
Yeah.
just, "Oh,
And
what am I sup" like a squirrel that I watch running around in the garden. "Brint, brint, brint,
and it
brint."
happened to me
What am I supposed
yesterday.
to do?
It's really actually quite telling from yesterday. So I'm working on a new piece of art at the moment, and I hadn't done much on it yesterday. And again, it really hangs over me, going, "Come on, you've got to work on it, because you've got to do some every day. Or it's just not going to, obviously, clearly not going to happen." But I was also doing some other projects outside, so I thought, right, I'm going to go in. I'm going to go and do half an hour on the piece that I'm doing on.
Mhm.
But do you know what? As I started, I was like, oh, and in my head, I could run. I feel myself running through, going, then you need to go outside, then you need to do this, and you do this. And I thought,
Rather than being
stop.
in the moment.
I'm about to mess up my drawing, because I wasn't
Right.
concentrating on what I was doing, and it was a bit half-hearted with what I was doing in front of me, because my brain was somewhere else. I was like, you get Sarah,
Mhm.
either stop what you're doing and go back out and do the other
Go and
jobs you're
do it.
thinking about, or give yourself this dedicated clear 30 minutes of working on it and concentrate the hell on what you're doing, because otherwise it's going to be a
Yeah.
big mistake and you can't undo it. And I suddenly realized I have my music on. It's a really mindful experience when I'm drawing, because I have to, I'm looking at my reference image really closely, and then, going back to my piece backwards and forwards. You can't think about other things when you're doing it. You can't, you have to do
Right.
that. And I thought that's a really good example as well, is there's too much multitasking, and that causes a lot of
Yes.
overwhelm, too much to do. And you're like, just one
Especially as a woman,
thing.
I think. Sorry,
Yeah,
guys,
I
but
think so. I think,
I
but
think women
actually,
just
there's
multitask a
but
lot.
maybe there's a credit to very, very generalistic, but men that do only do one thing at a time, maybe they get it done
Mhm.
really well, you know, and they're far less stressed because
Yes.
they're just thinking about that one thing. So maybe
Uh-huh.
there's something to be said for
So
that. But
that's what my husband does. He just methodically moves
yeah,
through each thing.
next thing.
Whereas I'm like, "Meh," and I think, you seriously, you've done all that already? And that's because whatever it is, he just focuses on the task at
One thing at
hand.
a time. And so
And I admire that.
I think part of this too much is trying to do too many things. We feel like our list is never ending. And you're like, come on, you're never going to get all that done, particularly all at the same time. Pick one thing, work out your
Mm.
prioritization, pick that thing, and then get that done. The other thing that I think helps for me, and I've in this new sort of slightly more simplistic approach that I was talking about in our text message, is like journaling is definitely helping me, because I can
Yeah.
then even work through those prioritizations. I can justify it to myself if I need to, but like, oh, but I wanted to get that done. Go, okay, this is the reason you've chosen these things, the way I'm feeling about that, just calming, you know, all of that nervous system around that, because I am someone that likes to get things done. So I don't find it easy to say, oh, I'll do it later. So I journal about it as well. And I think that helps. Do you write things down? Do you write lists as well?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, all of that. Mhm.
But don't you think
And it
lists can
helps.
be, it does, but lists can be stressful
It can
because
be
all of a sudden,
overwhelming.
yeah, you're like, the list is, as you know, two sides of A4. You think, okay, well, I'm never going to get that done. So I think sometimes just choosing your top three for the day is a better way to do it,
Right,
because
is it?
otherwise it just, yeah,
It's too much.
it is too
There's
much.
actually studies been done about too much since as far back as, the
Hmm.
1950s, and what it showed then is that adults can compare things between, like, 5 to 9 alternatives. Any more than that, and it then requires a system.
Okay.
Having too many choices can just shut down one's brain. Like exercise fatigues the body.
Yeah.
Having too much to think about, too much to do, too many choices does the exact same thing to your brain. Where,
Hmm.
like I was saying, so in the end, I just think, fuck it, I
Yeah.
won't do it because it's just too much. And apparently, too, it can also wear down your willpower, which for people that are trying to lose weight is a big deal. Because if you go online, which everybody does these days,
Yeah.
and you think, okay, I want to lose weight. I'm going to go online and get some
Ugh.
idea, of how
I
to
mean,
do
pick
it.
one of a million. Yeah.
Holy smokes. That is probably one of the worst things ever
Hmm.
because everybody has an opinion. So, keto, we've talked about this before about how
Mm.
many diets there are out there,
Hmm.
but you listen to one that says calories, count your it's all about calorie
Yeah.
deficit, right? And then I was reading this yesterday, this doctor has come forward and said, and I'm sure there's others that believe this too, it has nothing to do with that. It's all about what you're eating. And of course, yes, you want to put wholesome food in your body, but it's like if you're counting calories, you're not going to lose weight. I'm like, what the fuck? Seriously? So
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to like figure out what works for you because the whole thing of
Well,
all
yeah,
those
yeah,
reading all of
the
that
information. And
makes you just the information, there's just too much information.
but I find that too. I thought about that even with social media, is the fact that we spend too much time on social media, and
Oh,
that's just
yeah,
giving us too much information. And actually, and I
and
was
wasting
watching,
too much time.
yeah, and
Mm,
you think, just maybe set yourself, a set amount of time that you're willing to go onto
mhm,
social media for. And I find it, even when
yeah,
using social media for my work, it just eats into the amount of time that I've got. I'm like, I feel like I've spent
right,
ages doing that without actually doing the doing.
yeah,
But you think that's just how long it takes to get that bit done, and you have to
mhm,
do it. So I think that social media, or media in general, is something. So it might be information about healthy eating and diets, which is completely overwhelming because everyone says something different. But social media in general, because it's the comparison situation. So again, you put yourself into that role of comparing your life compared to someone else's, or what you're doing. That's overwhelming because you just suddenly think, well, I'm not doing it as well as someone else's. I think stripping everything back, that is the key. It's also, I would class it
Mm-hmm.
as slow living. And I looked up slow living because it is something
Yeah.
which is, actively encouraged. The definition of it is
Mm-hmm.
a mindset where you curate, which I underline that word because I like that, curate a more meaningful and
Mm-hmm.
conscious lifestyle that's in line with what you value most in your life. And I thought that's what we're trying to get to the
I like
nub
that a
of.
lot.
It's curating your own life. You
Yeah.
know what? And if you walk into
Mm-hmm.
a department store, you look at everything, you're like, whoa. But generally, if you're going in for, I don't know, mixing bowls, you go to the shelf and there's a range of mixing bowls and you choose something that's going to suit what you need, suit your lifestyle, suit your price range. I don't know why I came up with mixing bowls. That's just what came into my head.
I
But
just think it's so funny because that is the one thing that it's like, it's ridiculous how many mixing bowls I have.
really,
And it's one thing that I'm like, okay, Lovoni, you have to just get rid of some.
do you know
Yeah.
what? And I
So
don't
I'm
know
like,
why
wow,
this.
that's so weird. Are you in
I
my house?
must be, but I think
Yeah.
3 is the magic number. And it's funny
Oh
when
my
you
God.
really.
Oh God. I must have about 50.
Okay, you need to cull that.
Right. And
Yeah,
that is somewhat cold.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that needs to happen. But it's like when you were
Yeah.
talking about sort of decision making, I find only having 2 choices stressful. If you had to say
Oh
this or
God,
this, I'm
really?
like, because it's too, I feel like the commitment is really strong. I'm like, if you gave me 3, I'm quite happy to make my choice because I feel like I've
Three's a
made
good,
an informed
yeah,
decision. Okay.
three's
If
good.
there's only 2 to choose from, I feel the pressure is, I know that might be weird, but I think the pressure is really high because I'm like, I don't want to choose between those 2 because what if that's the wrong one? If I've got 3, I feel more comfortable making an informed decision.
Hmm. See, and
That's
I
me.
feel like whatever choice I make, I always second guess myself. So there's a couple of things that one, Steve Jobs, Apple Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
he always wore the same thing apparently every day.
Yes. Because
And
then he didn't
that
have to think
was
about it.
because he didn't have to think about it, which is my idea of building a capsule
Yeah.
closet where
Hmm.
you just have, even if you don't know what that means, just, look it up. We can maybe do a thing on it
Yeah.
because I think it is such a brilliant idea because just choosing what to wear sometimes, especially if you're going out, creates a lot of angst and
Yeah.
makes a lot of people late for things.
Hmm.
So, and then you get stressed or you might, then argue with your partner, whatever. But it does lead to,
Yeah.
that. And also when you were talking about, can you send me that quote? You have to send me that
I
quote.
will.
The whole curate a more meaningful lifestyle is thinking about what you like.
Yeah.
Write it down maybe what you like in, say, clothes. Because I always felt like, oh, I had to wear bright colors and because that's what people said, "Oh, you're wearing black again."
If that's what you want to
I
wear,
mean,
wear it.
but that's what I like. I
Yeah.
grew up in a big city. I wore a lot of black. I like it. I think that you can dress it up, dress it down,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't have to justify it. I do like it. But there are some other colors that I have thrown into the mix. And then I think, oh, well, they're not very summery. And I think I don't give a fuck
No.
anymore. Seriously.
No.
It's what I like. And I think that's what people need to do, what you like in your home. If you don't know, look at other pictures. But
Hmm.
like you said, the more the less that you have cluttered about, the less of too much, the easier it becomes, the
Yeah.
easier it's to clean, the easier it just feels, things just feel
Well, I wrote this
lighter.
down. So I've sort of put underneath that quote that I just read out about curating is it makes room for your goals for a start. So when you clear
Right.
your mind, when you clear your space, you've then got room to concentrate on those things which are your goals, like we talked about last week. The whole slowing down, it doesn't mean slowing down with no action. It just makes more methodical and concentrated actions when you're doing it. One thing at a time, like we talked about. Um, Take some time to enjoy it as well. So when you've got this capsule wardrobe, as you were describing, you can enjoy every single thing that you've got in there because you know that you love all of the pieces that you've put in,
Mm-hmm.
rather than thinking that you're making do. I hate making do. Don't make do.
No, no,
Life's too short for making do. Make the really
right.
delicious pizza, make the really simple salad, but you enjoy it. Don't make do. Um,
Like simple's okay. Learn to embrace simplicity,
yeah.
I think.
And get rid of what's not serving you. So get rid of goals if they're not serving you. Just because you think you should doesn't mean you have to
Mm.
So just because you think
Yeah.
everyone is suddenly doing something that you see on social media and that's now your goal, no, just because they are doesn't mean it has to be yours. Get rid of the approach if it's not suiting you. So again, you saying, looking at all these people telling you how to lose weight. If it doesn't suit the way that you want to live your life, don't do it. Get rid of it.
No.
And also people like we've talked about, like the friend edit in previous episodes, or the people that you're watching, that you're exposing yourself to, the people that you talk to. Maybe choose not to share everything in your life. Just choose a few simple people that you know that you can trust, that have got your back, and they're going to encourage you or give you, sound advice if you need it. I'm not saying only choose people that are going to give you the yay all the time. So
Right.
I think that's what slow living is now meaning for me. It's getting rid of the too much. It's keeping the simple things. It's editing everything, and then allowing myself to enjoy what I have edited, because otherwise,
The edited version.
what is the point? Yeah, otherwise. But
there's a lot to be said in the too much, because there's marketing companies that help other companies like Netflix, like, make it easier for people. So, you go and, Netflix might have trending or top 10, things that
yeah,
people are looking at, and it just makes it easier for people.
yeah.
You may not watch that, but if people go on there it is. It's all taken care of. I read a story about a restaurant that was doing okay, but they thought that they should be doing better, and they had a very extensive menu. They went to a marketing company. The marketing company completely just slashed the menu by so much. So one, now your overheads aren't as high
Yeah,
because you don't have to carry all the ingredients, but their profit margin went up considerably. And, for a restaurant, that was good. They just made their menu so much smaller,
yeah,
less choices, because there was just too much. I mean, I've opened, and you've been here, you've seen what
yeah,
it's like here. There's just so much choice.
yeah.
And I think that for a lot of
But I
people
think as society, that's what
creates
we're like
issues.
now. But if you talk about
Oh, yeah.
TV, I mean, you go to, it's one of my pet hates, like going to watch some TV and then someone spending half an hour, it feels like, choosing what you're going to watch. You're like,
Oh,
just choose
right.
something already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm so past caring what it is now. Just put it on. I don't care. And particularly, this is a pet hate as well. If you've served up a meal and you might be having a TV dinner, and they're spending like 15 minutes choosing what to watch rather than eating the food. You're like, can you eat the food while it's still hot? Because
Right.
like, I'm just choosing something. And you're like,
Had
oh
that
man,
conversation.
just can you, yeah, it really, really drives me up the wall. But it's almost like a
Right.
joke now, because we're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, just choose something, that's fine, anything will
Yeah.
be fine. But I think again, it's just too much choice. People can't, they're like, you see reams of things on offer, and they
Mhm.
think, oh, I don't know what to watch, I don't know what to watch. You're like, really? If there was three, you'd be able to choose something, wouldn't you? So I think that's a
Right,
good
right.
example of how everything is around us, and you've got to carve your own
Just this
path through that. Carve it through and
yeah,
make your choice that fits for you.
yeah, because, too much creates confusion, overwhelm,
Overwhelm. Yeah.
and deletes willpower, like I said.
Yeah.
So it's about, like you were saying, creating harmony to just right, so you can restore some sort of balance, and it will improve decision-making abilities for
Yeah.
people as well. Um, and just the whole slow living thing, I like that.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, for me,
It's
it's
so,
definitely the way
yeah,
to go. Yeah.
curate. So
It's a
curate,
it's a great
curate
word, isn't
everything.
it? Yeah.
Yes, it's very good. Just I have a disclaimer here, but I am going to Costco after this.
I'm like, oh
I'm going to be good.
no.
I have a shopping
No.
list
Oh.
where I'm just going
But the
to get
trouble is
what's on
Costco's like
it.
mass bulk of everything, isn't it?
Oh, and that's the problem. So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing when you buy food there, if you don't want to waste it,
You then
don't
have to
get.
eat
So
them.
I've decided what we're having this
Mm,
week, and I'm getting the foods, that I can use over and
okay.
over again. Yeah,
I'll
because
check in
no one
later
needs
to see how
like
that's gone.
52 kilos of potatoes.
Yeah, good
Yes,
luck,
I will
everyone.
report back next week. Okay, so goals
So the goal for this
for
week, let's
yeah.
choose one area of your life where you're feeling overwhelmed and probably more than likely suffering with the feeling of too much, and make a plan to simplify things. Some examples: maybe go through your weekly food shopping list and strike off the extra quantities of produce you just don't need, or maybe purge. A purge of your wardrobe is needed to clear out some space to see that the clothes that you have and the things you love to wear, and you can donate or recycle the rest. Or even set yourself some time limits on viewing social media, like we said, so that the overwhelm of other people's lives and the comparison is reduced. So your goal for this week is to reduce one area of overwhelm in your life and see how you feel.
I just wrote it down.
Okay.
So mine's going to be recipes. Like
Okay.
come up with a plan of how I want my recipes to be for myself, but to share
Yeah.
and stick to that plan.
Okay.
And also listening to you say that, if people feel overwhelmed by it, that they have too much to do to get rid of the too much, what I'm doing is just setting 30 minutes a day, slotting
Yeah, the
that
little time thing, that's
into
really
the end
good.
of my day to like, okay, I'm just going to do that
Yeah.
section there.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great idea. Great
What
idea.
about, so, okay, do you have a particular thing that you want to
I don't know yet. I
lesson
think I'm going to make a whole list of all the things that I want to do, and then I'm just going to
and
pick
then
one.
pick one?
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I'm going to do.
Please join us next week as we discuss exercise. Speaking of too much, God, there's so much information about that. But it's health benefits, not just for weight loss and physical health, but also for mental health. We talk easy ways to include more exercise in your daily routine and weekly routines, and what forms of exercise are the most beneficial. If you head to lovoniandsarah.com, you'll find show notes and recipes for each episode. See notes below to connect with us on your favorite podcast platform, Instagram and YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next week, bye for now.
Bye.